Well, hello. Today I wanted to give some tips for beginner backpacking. My intention for this video is for it to be a helpful jumping off point for someone who's looking to get into backpacking, or for an experienced backpacker who's looking to take a beginner on a trip. This video assumes that the beginner has put some research into gear and the essentials of backpacking, but has yet to have the practical experience. For those new to my channel, my name is Jenny and I have about 3.5 years of backpacking experience, mostly in New England. As a beginner, I definitely made a lot of blunders, such as pushing too many miles right off the bat, carrying too much food, and being underprepared for cold temperatures. I found it helpful to hike with an experienced backpacker who could provide expertise or extra gear items if I needed it, and who could recognize when it was time to bail out. These are some things that I learned through practical experience that may be helpful to beginner backpackers and those that hike with them. My number one tip for beginner backpackers is don't overdo it. Don't try to push too many miles right off the bat, because that is unfortunately how a lot of people get injured.
Yep, and now I'll be maimed and mangled for the rest of my life.
It can be really tempting to think, well, I can walk 10 miles, why can't I hike it? But when you're carrying weight on your back and hiking on more difficult terrain, it's so different. For one thing, carrying that much weight, you're putting a lot more strain on your joints. And also, if you're doing a lot of ups and downs, that also puts a lot of strain on your knees in particular. And sometimes, in my case, my ankles would bother me or my feet. So I would end up really, really sore after the hike, and sometimes for days or even weeks after the hike, because I had kind of pushed myself beyond what my body was ready to handle. So instead of planning a long distance trail right off the bat, I would actually recommend doing a short overnight for starters. So do 1 to 2 miles, hike in, set up camp, and that way you're a quick hike out if you need to bail out. And it will give you a chance to try out, how does my pack carry? How does my gear work for staying overnight somewhere? If you're an experienced backpacker and you're planning a trip with a beginner, you probably already know of some spots that would be a nice, quick, easy hike in, somewhere maybe where you could build a fire and just have a nice, chill evening. My second tip for beginner backpackers is to test your gear before you go on any big trips. You can try out your shelter and sleep system at a campground or public lands where camping is allowed, or even your backyard. Make sure you're close to somewhere like your house or your car in case your system doesn't work out, or bring backups. If you're an experienced backpacker going on a trip with a beginner, you can carry extra things like an extra sleeping pad, extra snacks, or even extra layers. My third tip for a beginner backpacker is to find someone experienced to go with when you're just starting out. That way you can learn tips from them in the field, such as how to hang a bear bag or how to build a fire. If you're an experienced backpacker going with a beginner, stay with that person and show them the ropes. Maybe have them hang the bear bag and give them pointers. While hiking, try not to get separated from the beginner and maintain a flexible mindset in case things don't go to plan, which is very likely. Hike with the slowest person in front so that they set the pace. Take breaks and check in with each other periodically.
Does it feel a little hot on your head?
A little bit.
And lastly, don't worry if things don't go perfectly on your first trip. Take what you've learned and apply it to improve your next trip. I'm going to be making another video where I talk about all of the mistakes that I made when I was first starting out, as well as the things I did right to correct those mistakes. So make sure you subscribe so that you see when I post that video. If you have any tips or advice for beginners just starting out with backpacking, please leave them in the comments. And in the meantime, happy trails.
It's his first backpacking trip. So
It's over with.
it's very exciting.